Have you ever wondered how a faith often thought to be waning in the Middle East is actually finding fresh ground and new life in surprising places? Picture this. In lands where Islam has been the predominant faith for centuries, pockets of Christian devotion are rising up, challenging our assumptions and revealing stories of persistence, adaptation, and spiritual renewal. In these next few minutes, we'll journey through 10 Arab countries where, against daunting odds, Christianity is not only surviving, but growing. We'll meet communities carrying ancient traditions, refugees rebuilding shattered lives, and young seekers drawn by a longing for meaning. So lean in, because what you're about to hear might just alter the way you see faith in a region often portrayed as monolithic. Number 1. Lebanon. Imagine a nation where the landscape itself seems to tell a story of coexistence. Cedar-forested mountains, rugged coastline, and lively cities where Christian cathedrals stand shoulder to shoulder with mosques. In Lebanon today, roughly 4 out of every 10 people identify as Christian, making it the Arab country with the highest concentration of believers. This remarkable statistic reflects a unique political framework born out of Lebanon's turbulent past, a system where key government roles are allocated by sect, ensuring that Christians hold the presidency and enjoy guaranteed representation in parliament. Far from being a mere token gesture, this power-sharing model has allowed Lebanese Christians to sustain their educational institutions, charitable organizations, and artistic endeavors, even as economic crises and regional turmoil roiled the nation. In 2025, Lebanese Christians are estimated to be growing at nearly 1.3% each year, driven partly by robust family structures and partly by a new wave of young people rediscovering the appeal of communal worship, social justice initiatives, and charitable outreach that their churches sponsor. Walk through Beirut's vibrant Maronite neighborhoods, or explore the ancient monasteries tucked into the mountains, and you'll see churches brimming with youth-led programs focusing on entrepreneurship, environmental stewardship, and interfaith dialogue. Even as many Lebanese families emigrate seeking better opportunities, those who stay are pouring energy into revitalizing Christian schools that teach Arabic, French, and English, blending religious education with modern academic curricula. In neighborhoods like Akrafies and Zouk Mikael, art festivals and concerts hosted by church groups draw crowds of both believers and non-believers, reinforcing the idea that faith in Lebanon thrives not in isolation, but in creative collaboration with the wider society. Despite bouts of political paralysis and financial hardship, Lebanese Christians continue to innovate, opening microfinance cooperatives to help struggling families, founding tech incubators to keep talent at home, and launching interfaith conferences that bring Muslim and Christian leaders to the same table. In this land, where cedar trees have symbolized endurance for millennia, the Christian community remains a living testament to how faith, when woven into both culture and governance, can endure and even flourish in an ever-changing Middle East. Number 2. Egypt. Picture the mighty Nile winding through desert sands, bearing witness to countless civilizations, and among them, one of the world's oldest surviving Christian communities. The Coptic Orthodox Church, tracing its roots back to the Apostle Mark, has endured waves of conquest, cultural shifts, and political upheaval for nearly 2,000 years. Today, Copts amount to between 10 and 15% of Egypt's 105 million people, making them the largest Christian group in the Middle East. Though Egyptians often focus on immediate struggles, rising living costs, political reforms, and regional conflicts, the Coptic community has quietly experienced a modest resurgence, estimated at about 1.4% growth annually, as of 2025. In bustling Cairo neighborhoods like Shubra and Mataria, Coptic churches pump with the sound of choirs rehearsing age-old hymns, while Coptic schools in Alexandria and Upper Egypt expand enrollment by offering scholarships to underprivileged students, both Christian and Muslim. Extreme hardship in Egypt, therefore, Christianity is not a static relic, but a dynamic force shaping social welfare, interreligious harmony, and cultural preservation, even as the nation navigates the complexities of the 21st century. Number 3. Iraq. To understand Iraq's Christian story, imagine ancient cities like Mosul and Kirkuk once teeming with diverse Christian rites, Chaldean Catholics, Assyrian Church of the East, Syriac Orthodox faithful, and Armenian parishes, all coexisting in a land hallowed by millennia of scriptures and simmering conflicts. Prior to 2003, there were roughly 1.5 million Christians in Iraq. Then came decades of violence. The US invasion, sectarian strife, and the horrific onslaught of ISIS, which reduced communities to rubble and forced families into exile. By 2025, estimates place Iraq's Christian numbers between 350,000 and 400,000. Yet even in this demographic decline, there are glimmers of quiet revival. Aid organizations, both faith-based and secular, have focused on rebuilding churches in the Nineveh Plains, which some term the ancestral cradle of Mesopotamian Christianity. Those collaborative projects, supported by diaspora fundraising campaigns. Number 4. Syria. When you conjure images of Syria, you might think first of ancient ruins like Palmyra or the grim footage of civil war. But beneath the current of destruction, there remains a thread of continuity. Christian communities that date back to apostolic times. Pre-war, Christians made up nearly 10% of Syria's roughly 22 million population, with Greek Orthodox, Syriac Orthodox, and Melkite Catholics cemented in cities like Aleppo, Damascus, and Homs. The brutal conflict that erupted in 2011 shattered neighborhoods, bombed centuries-old churches, and drove nearly 500,000 Christians into exile. Yet, in 2025, observers notice a slow re-emergence. In government-controlled areas of Damascus, a handful of parishes that were gutted by shelling now buzz with reconstruction efforts, while in the relative calm of Tartus and Latakia, once empty seminaries now host theology students praying to serve a post-war generation. The overall Christian population in Syria might hover near 700,000 today. Number 5. Jordan. Tucked between deserts, the Dead Sea, and busy Amman streets, Jordan might not come to mind first when you think of religious diversity. Yet this kingdom, ruled by a Hashemite monarchy that promotes tolerance, has long been a haven for faith minorities. Christians, who constitute roughly 6% of Jordan's 10 million populace, enjoy constitutional protections, recognized holidays, and freedom to worship. But as of 2025, Jordan is experiencing a gentle uptick in Christian population, about 1.5% growth yearly, largely spurred by refugee inflows and the emergence of evangelical movements. In the bustling Abdali district of Amman, new church plants cater to Arabic-speaking evangelicals who blend worship with social entrepreneurship, launching initiatives like micro-lending programs for small businesses in underserved neighborhoods. In Irbid and Zarqa, older Orthodox and Catholic churches academically rooted in Byzantine and Antiochian traditions now host bilingual services, drawing both expatriate families and local converts seeking fresh forms of spiritual expression. Number 6. United Arab Emirates. Here, in the gleaming cities that rise from the desert, Dubai's skyline of futuristic towers, Abu Dhabi's cultural district, and Sharjah's museums, there exists an astonishingly diverse Christian presence that few associate with the Gulf. The UAE's roughly 10 million residents include around 1 million Christians hailing from every corner of the globe. Filipinos, Indians, Nigerians, South Koreans, Europeans, and a sprinkling of Western expats. Unlike Lebanon or Jordan, these believers rarely trace their roots to ancient Middle Eastern churches. Instead, they arrive seeking work opportunities and bring with them family traditions of worship that range from Pentecostal fervor to liturgical solemnity. As of 2025, the Christian community in the Emirates is growing at nearly 2% per year, a rate driven by continuous labor migration and a government policy that, while carefully managed, tolerates non-Muslim worship within specific church complexes. In Abu Dhabi's Christ the King Church and Dubai's St. Mary's Catholic Church, you'll hear services in Tagalog, Malayalam, English, and Arabic, each resonating with hymns that blend cultural motifs, Filipino praise songs, Indian gospel, choirs, and Nigerian choirs performing contemporary worship hits. Number 7. Qatar. Shrinking from the massive oil wealth and infrastructure projects of its neighbor, the UAE, Qatar remains one of the Gulf's more conservative states. Yet, in Doha's glass and steel towers and sprawling construction sites, faith journeys are quietly unfolding among a mosaic of migrant workers and their families. Christians in Qatar number around 350,000 as of 2025, growing at a rate close to 2% annually, driven mainly by laborers from the Philippines, India, Kenya, and South Africa, alongside smaller contingents of Western expatriates. Unlike older expatriate enclaves, many of these workers live in labor camps hundreds of miles from Doha, yet their faith remains a constant, worshipping in small groups when they can, downloading sermon podcasts to smartphones, and organizing clandestine prayer meetings in borrowed living rooms. In Doha, the government permits Christian worship within the religious complex in Messaid, a designated area hosting several denominations under one roof: Catholic, Anglican, Orthodox, and various evangelical fellowships. Here, on any given Sunday, you might encounter a Tamil language mass, followed by an Ethiopian Orthodox liturgy, and then a Filipino choir singing contemporary worship anthems. These services are performed under strict rules: no public evangelism, limited signage, and discreet advertising. Number 8. Kuwait. Just north of the Saudi border, and blessed with fertile coastline, Kuwait has long attracted trade caravans and, more recently, global workers. Today, roughly 600,000 Christians, about 15% of the country's 4 million residents, call Kuwait home. This figure places Kuwait among the Gulf's most Christian-friendly nations, with a network of officially recognized churches sprawling across Kuwait City and its suburbs. Unlike Qatar or Saudi Arabia, where worship is either tightly confined or outright prohibited, Kuwait allows Christian congregations to gather in purpose-built houses of worship, often Roman Catholic, Anglican, Evangelical, or Coptic Orthodox. These churches serve as lifelines, not only for spiritual nourishment, but also for social support. Friday fellowship, lunches for expatriates, tent revival meetings in remote desert camps, and charity bazaars raising funds for building renovations. In 2025, Kuwait's Christian population is growing at an estimated 1.5% annually, primarily through sustained labor migration and a handful of discrete conversions among foreign-born spouses of Kuwaiti citizens. Number 9. Tunisia. Shift your gaze westward to North Africa, where the Mediterranean breeze wafts over olive groves, and a small Christian minority is quietly making itself known in a nation often lauded for its democratic experiment. Tunisia's population is overwhelmingly Muslim, and Christians account for less than 1% of roughly 12 million people. Yet, as of 2025, that tiny fraction is growing at a modest but meaningful 1.5% annually, driven predominantly by converts from Muslim backgrounds and foreign students studying at Tunisian universities. Unlike Morocco or Algeria, Tunisia has a comparatively limited legal framework regarding religious freedom, but a surge of evangelical outreach, especially online, is sparking curiosity among young Tunisians seeking alternatives to both traditional Islam and secular disillusionment. In cities like Tunis and Sfax, small house churches, sometimes meeting in apartments or rented office spaces, conduct clandestine Bible studies in Arabic, often using social media platforms like Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp to coordinate logistics and share sermons in audio form. Converts, aware of potential social repercussions, adopt pseudonyms and meet irregularly, but they are driven by a sense of spiritual calling that transcends fear. At the same time, expatriate Christian communities, mainly sub-Saharan African students and aid workers, maintain more visible ministries, hosting humanitarian aid distributions in squatter settlements and running vocational training centers. In conjunction with international NGOs, these outreach efforts have garnered quiet respect from local authorities, who in some cases issue permits for limited outdoor gatherings on Easter, provided they remain discreet and invite no local converts. While the Vatican maintains a small archdiocese centered in Tunis, the real engine of growth lies underground. Tunisian believers in small fellowship homes sharing testimonies of hope, distributing Arabic Bibles under the radar, and daring to integrate faith into everyday conversations about identity and future. Number 10. Mauritania. Our final destination lies at the far western edge of the Arab world, where the Sahara meets the Atlantic, and a tiny Christian presence persists in one of the most challenging environments imaginable. Mauritania, home to roughly 5 million people, is an Islamic republic where conversion from Islam is legally prohibited and socially condemned. Yet, as of 2025, International observers estimate that around 1 to 2% of Mauritania's population has embraced Christianity, mostly migrants from sub-Saharan Africa and a handful of courageous local converts. Share your thoughts and let us continue this conversation, because understanding these faith movements enriches not only our knowledge of the Arab world, but also our grasp of how belief can take root in the most unlikely soils. If this exploration moved you, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives into faith and culture, and pass this along to someone who might be intrigued by these unsung stories. Thanks for listening, and until next time, stay curious and stay open to the unexpected ways faith can shape our world.